Mayowa met Pero on a rainy Tuesday in Lagos, the kind of rain that flooded streets and slowed time. He was a struggling software developer, clutching a nylon bag of spare parts, while she was a medical student hurrying home from her shift. Their eyes met under a half-broken umbrella, and for a brief moment, the chaos around them disappeared. It wasn't love at first sight, it was curiosity at first glance. Days turned into conversations, and conversations into laughter. Pero admired his intelligence, his humility, and the way he spoke about his dreams as if they were inevitable. Mayowa, on the other hand, found in her the calm he didn't know he needed. She made him feel seen in a city that often ignored people like him. But life in Lagos had its own rhythm, a rhythm of hustle, heartbreak, and survival. And though love was blooming, it was about to face the kind of test only fate could design. That rainy day wasn't the beginning of their love, it was the beginning of their test. Mayowa was broke, but his dreams weren't. He promised Pero that one day he'd build a tech empire, one that would make her proud. She believed him without a second thought. That belief was her currency, and she spent it freely on him. Every evening she cooked for him, encouraged him, and sometimes even paid his transport when he couldn't afford to see her. Pero's friends called her foolish. They warned her that love doesn't fill empty bank accounts, but she only smiled and said he's different. Mayowa too felt the weight of her faith in him. He stayed up late, coding by candlelight, dreaming of a breakthrough that always seemed just one line of code away. Pero became his motivation, his muse, and his mirror. But dreams don't come cheap, and love, he would soon learn, can cost even more. One afternoon, Mayowa's landlord gave him a final warning, 2 months' rent overdue. Desperate and ashamed, he didn't tell Pero. But she found out anyway, when she came to surprise him with food and saw the eviction notice pinned to his door. Without hesitation, Pero withdrew her entire savings, the money meant for her medical board exam, and paid off his rent. "We'll both make it," she said with a smile. "One day we'll laugh about this." But that night, she cried silently, clutching her empty account balance. Mayowa promised to repay her, but deep down, something inside him shifted. He realized love wasn't just about words, it was about sacrifice. Yet he also knew every sacrifice had a price tag. And the price of Pero's love was starting to grow heavier than her heart could carry. Months later, luck finally found Mayowa. His app, something he had built for fun, was picked up by an investor. Overnight, his name started trending on Twitter. From broke developer to digital genius, the headlines read. Pero couldn't stop smiling. She told everyone she knew, proud of the man she had believed in when no one else did. But with success came silence. Mayowa's calls became shorter, his texts colder, his excuses longer. When she confronted him, he said he was busy. And though she believed him at first, a small voice in her heart whispered, busy with what? Or worse, busy with who? Fame had found Mayowa, but it also found the cracks in his love. Mayowa's world changed fast. Business meetings replaced movie nights. Investors replaced conversations. And women, elegant, confident, and successful, now surrounded him. Pero watched from a distance, her name no longer mentioned in his stories. He started dressing differently, talking differently, even walking differently. "I'm just evolving," he told her one day. But Pero could feel it. She was being edited out of the story she helped him write. Her friends now mocked her openly. "So he's rich now and forgot you, we told you." Pero laughed it off, but deep inside, her heart broke quietly in chapters. The boy she loved was still there, but he was hidden behind a man she no longer recognized. Their love became digital, text messages delayed for hours, calls missed for days. When they finally met, the warmth had faded. Pero still smiled, still cooked, still hoped, but her laughter felt forced and her hugs unanswered. One evening, Mayowa arrived late to her birthday dinner. No flowers, no gift, just apologies and exhaustion. Pero tried to act happy, but when he left early, the tears came. She stared at the empty chair across the table and whispered, "Maybe love just expires quietly." That night, Mayowa didn't even notice the text she sent. "Do you still love me?" He didn't reply until morning. His answer was short. "Don't ask me that now. I'm under pressure." Pressure. That was what love had become. Rumors started to spread. a photo of Mayowa at a high-end event with another woman. She wasn't just beautiful, she was famous, the daughter of his biggest investor. Pero saw the photo online before he could explain. When she asked, his tone turned defensive. "It's business, Pero. Stop being insecure." But insecurity wasn't the problem, truth was. Her heart pounded as she scrolled through the comments. "Perfect couple," one read. "Finally, Mayowa found his match," another said. Pero laughed bitterly. "Match," she whispered. "He didn't even strike without me." That was the night Pero stopped praying for him and started praying for herself. Pero tried to walk away, but love has a way of chaining the feet that try to run. Each time she decided to leave, he called. Each time she found strength, he said the right words. "Give me time," he'd say. "You know I love you, Pero." And though she knew those words were losing their meaning, she clung to them, because letting go would mean admitting she had been replaced. Love isn't blind, it's loyal to a fault. She stayed, even when she knew she was standing in the ruins of something that used to be beautiful. Months later, the internet exploded. Mayowa proposed to the investor's daughter at a private island dinner. The photos were everywhere. Hashtags, headlines, hashtags again. Pero froze when she saw it. Her hands shook. The world celebrated his new love story, unaware of the one that built it. The man who once promised her forever now promised another woman eternity. She wanted to scream, but all she managed was a whisper. "He used my love as a ladder," she said. And for the first time in years, she didn't cry. She just went silent. Because sometimes silence is the sound of acceptance. Mayowa thought his story was perfect until fate wrote a correction. His company came under investigation for financial fraud. The investor pulled out. His engagement fell apart and his reputation collapsed overnight. Suddenly, all the calls, meetings, and cameras disappeared. The mansion grew quiet. The silence was heavier than fame ever was. And in that silence, he remembered Pero, the only person who had ever loved him without condition. But by the time he dialed her number, it was too late. After 2 years, Mayowa showed up at Pero's clinic. She was now Dr. Pero Adedayo, standing tall in her white coat, the same woman he once left for better. He waited in the lobby, clutching a worn-out file of old memories. When she finally saw him, she froze, but only for a second. "Mayowa," she said softly, her voice professional. "You need an appointment." Her tone wasn't cruel, it was controlled. The same calm she once gave him freely was now wrapped in distance. He smiled weakly. "I didn't come for treatment, Pero. I came to say I'm sorry." Mayowa spoke for minutes that felt like hours about his mistakes, his regrets, his loneliness. Pero listened silently, her face unreadable. When he finished, she nodded. "I forgave you a long time ago," she said. "But forgiveness doesn't mean return." He looked at her hands, steady, confident, clean. The same hands that once fed him, held him, believed in him. "You built me," he said. "And I destroyed us," she smiled sadly. "No, Mayowa, you destroyed yourself. I just survived it." Later that night, Mayowa sat in his car, staring at his reflection in the window. He didn't see the billionaire who once trended online. He saw the boy Pero once believed in. The realization hit him hard. Love doesn't vanish, it transforms into lessons. And his lesson was staring back at him, wrapped in regret. For the first time, he cried not out of loss, but out of understanding. He had chased the world and lost his peace. Pero had lost him and found herself. Some victories don't come with applause. Months later, Mayowa received a wedding invitation. Pero's wedding. The man she was marrying wasn't rich, but he was kind, everything she once hoped Mayowa would be. He sat in silence, reading the card over and over. His name wasn't on the guest list, but he showed up anyway, standing far from the crowd, watching her smile under the same kind of rain that once introduced them. Looked radiant, full. And for the first time, Mayowa realized that losing her wasn't his punishment, it was her reward. As Pero walked down the aisle, the rain began to fall, soft at first, then stronger. People ran for shelter, but she laughed. It was as if the sky itself was blessing her new beginning. Mayowa stood under the same kind of umbrella he once shared with her years ago, tears mixing with the rain. The circle was complete. The same rain that brought them together was now washing him away from her story. He didn't stop her this time. He didn't even try. Because unconditional love sometimes means letting go completely. Months after Pero's wedding, Mayowa tried to rebuild his life quietly. No more boardrooms, no more headlines, just a small tech workshop in Ibadan, where he trained young developers for free. The man who once chased millions now chased meaning. Each morning he'd sit by his window, watching kids pass by with their school bags, and wonder if one day he'd have a child who looked at him with pride, not fear. But deep down, he knew he had missed his chance with the only woman who ever truly believed in him. Then one rainy morning, as he opened his phone, a headline froze him. Dr. Peradadeo rushed to Lagos University Teaching Hospital after tragic accident. His coffee cup fell, his pulse quickened. For the first time in years, Mayowa didn't think, he just drove. The drive from Ibadan to Lagos felt endless. Every red light was an enemy, every bump a punishment. His mind replayed every word he'd ever said to her, every silence, every "I'm busy." By the time he reached the hospital, he was trembling. At the reception, he barely got the words out. "Dr. Pero Aradio, where is she?" The nurse looked up, her tone calm but heavy. "ICU had trauma. She was hit by a drunk driver." He stood frozen. The irony stung. Life had given him everything. But when it truly mattered, he was always late. As he entered the ICU, the sound of machines filled the air like an orchestra of consequences. She was pale, motionless. Tubes and wires surrounded her fragile frame. For a long time, Mayowa couldn't move. Then, slowly, he took her hand, the same hand that once wiped his tears and fed his dreams. "I was a fool, Pero," he whispered. "You gave me heaven and I built hell out of it. You loved me when I was nothing, and I paid you back with pride." His tears fell freely, his voice cracking with every word. "If love is a debt, I owe you everything." For a moment, he thought she didn't hear him, but then her fingers twitched. Her lips moved faintly, and through the oxygen mask he heard it, barely a whisper. "You were always enough, Mayowa." He broke down completely. That one sentence healed and destroyed him all at once. A week later, Pero passed away peacefully. Her husband couldn't bear the loss and chose to move abroad soon after. During her funeral, Mayowa stood in the shadows unnoticed, his heart heavier than the coffin being lowered into the ground. After the service, a nurse approached him. "She left something for you," she said, handing him a sealed envelope with shaky handwriting, "Mayowa Adebayo." Inside was a single page. It read, "If love was a currency, I spent mine on you gladly. Don't waste your life paying me back, pay it forward. Teach someone else what unconditional love looks like." By the time he finished reading, he was on his knees, clutching the letter to his chest as the rain began to fall again. Years passed. Mayowa became a respected mentor, known across Africa for creating scholarships for women in tech, each one named the Pero Initiative. One day, while mentoring a new group, a young girl raised her hand and said shyly, "Sir, my name is Peromidayo. My mother told me I was named after her best friend in medical school, who taught her what love really means." Mayowa froze, the room blurred. He smiled faintly, tears forming in his eyes. "Your mother was right," he said softly. "Love doesn't die, it multiplies." As the girl ran out to join her classmates, the rain began again, tapping softly against the windows. And for the first time in forever, Mayowa didn't look sad. He looked complete. Because in losing the woman who loved him unconditionally, he finally learned the cost and the value of that love.